Hi, and welcome to this live reading from The Traveler, Chimera Revolution, Book 2 by Shannon Nemechek, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Prologue 470 A.D., Dyved, Wales, England. It was more than a legend to Merlin and Morgana, and it was more than just a passing fancy. He had watched her blossom into the woman he always felt she would be. Yes, he was older than Morgana, but only by 14 years. When he first laid eyes on Morgana, he was still an apprentice. His gangly appearance then was nothing like the man who now stood within inches of the raven-haired woman. He watched her pull her hair up, weaving it through her fingers, then tying it down with a ribbon. He smiled as she turned and faced him, her belly swollen with their twins. Morgana leaned in to kiss Merlin, then turned toward the door. "Must you leave?" Merlin placed a hand on her arm. "It is so close now. It could be any day." Morgana smiled, brushing a stray hair from her face. "I will only be gone for the day, my love. I promise." "A day is too long. Perhaps I should go or have Gawain accompany you." His hand now moved from her arm to her swollen belly. "What if the twins come while you are away? You cannot go alone, my love." Morgana smiled, kissing him again on the cheek. "I shall be fine, Merlin, I promise. I will go, and I will be back before nightfall. We both know Nineveh waits for no one, man or woman. I must go." "But why alone?" "I could not tell you, Merlin. Perhaps it is for my ears only." Merlin rubbed his chin, raking his fingers through his beard. "Perhaps, but this would be a first—" "Do you not believe me?" Morgana cut him off. "Of course I believe you. I am more worried that perhaps she has something up her sleeve." With a nod, Morgana agreed with a half-grin. She retrieved her cloak and draped it over her shoulders. Merlin stepped over to assist. "My love, just be wary. Nineveh, the Lady of the Lake, can be a deceiver, and she would not hesitate to strike you down in an instant." Her eyes met his, and an unspoken agreement passed between them. "I cannot disagree with you, my love, but Nineveh is not just the Lady of the Lake. She is my sister, and I must go to her. I promise I shall be back before the moon rises. Nineveh will not hurt me. I carry her niece and nephew in this swollen belly of mine." Rubbing her belly, she continued, "Merlin, fear not. Nineveh wants nothing more than to talk." Slipping her cloak over her head, she peered up through her eyelashes, a grin curling past the corners of her lips. "I love you, Merlin, and I won't be long." "Nineveh! Nineveh, sister, I am here!" Morgana approached the edge of the lake, pulling her cloak closed. The wind bristled through the trees, and an eerie silence fell over the woodland gardens. The lake stood still as Morgana called for her sister again. A moment passed, and the lake began to swirl and bubble. Slowly, Nineveh emerged from the lake and sauntered onto its sandy shore. "I am here, sister," she answered, moving swiftly toward Morgana, who stood like stone as her more powerful sister approached. "Why have you summoned me, sister?" Morgana inquired. Nineveh turned away, smirking. "Sister, can I not want to just see my little sister?" Morgana shifted her weight, turning to find a fallen oak behind her. She sat down. "Yes, sister, but you never want to just see me, so tell me why you have summoned me." Nineveh turned back, her black gown billowing like spilled ink around her, and sat next to Morgana. "I had a vision, little sister," she replied. A thick mist formed over the lake and moved toward them. "A vision, sister?" A knot began to form in Morgana's throat. "Yes, my sister, a vision. Of those bairn you carry in that swollen belly of yours. I have seen disaster. Danger will come with their birth." "For me, sister?" "No, with they. One shall take the other's life. They are both powerful, more powerful than you or I, and they are of Merlin. But one will be more powerful and will strike all of us down." A slight grin began to creep into Nineveh's face. She turned away, letting a whimper escape her lips. Morgana, sensing her angst, moved closer and touched Nineveh's shoulders. "Do not fret, my sister. I am quite certain we can figure something out. Merlin will know what to do." Oh, my dear sister, we cannot tell Merlin. It is too dangerous. Merlin could see them as his enemy and strike them down. Nineveh, Merlin would never— Really? Are you quite sure of that? Nineveh interrupted, attempting to sow a seed of doubt for Merlin in her sister's head. Yes, Merlin loves me and loves our bairns. I know you have doubt in Merlin, but I do not. Nineveh nodded. You are right, my sister. I did, however, have an idea. Tell me, sister. Smiling, Nineveh took Morgana by the hand and led her down a path to a stone wall. With a wave of her hand, the stone began to shudder and shift, revealing a cave opening before them. Come, sister. Nineveh motioned as Morgana entered the cave. Torches on either side began to light as she passed. The air was thick, damp, and cool, and a fire burned in the far end of the cave. Furs lay arranged upon the stone floor with bottles and herbs on a rock near the fire. The damp coolness of the air forced Morgana to pull her cloak closed. Shivering, she sat down on a fur nearest the fire. Tell me, sister, what is this idea you have? Nineveh sat, her attention focused on Morgana's swollen belly. May I? Yes, sister. Nineveh placed her hand on Morgana's belly and closed her eyes. The room began to glow, and the bottles nearest the fire exploded, sending shards of glass towards them. Morgana raised her hand, freezing the glass fragments in place before sending them to the ground. Sister, what are you doing? Her voice cracked, but Nineveh was unmoved. Morgana pled. Sister, please! She attempted to swipe her sister's hand away, and Nineveh's eyes shot open. It is done. What did you do, sister? I did what needed to be done. Morgana screamed. What did you do, Nineveh? Tell me! Nineveh cackled, finally answering her. I transferred the power from the female child to the male. Now you must go. You will give birth this night. Now go. Morgana wanted to strike back at Nineveh, but she stopped short. Doubled over in pain, her contractions beginning, she fled the cave. The stone behind her began to cover the opening, closing it off. Morgana moved as quickly as she could through the dense forest to the dwelling she and Merlin shared. Unable to push the door open, she banged her fist on the wooden door. Merlin opened it, and Morgana fell into his arms. The bairns! They are coming! Merlin carried his wife into the house, calling for Beatrice, the chambermaid, to send for the castle's midwife while he tended to Morgana. Beatrice soon returned with a bowl of water and a rag. Master Merlin, I have a cool rag for mistress's head. Beatrice handed Merlin the cool rag. He placed it on Morgana's forehead, and she slowly regained consciousness. Merlin, my love, the bairns are coming. I am afraid. Merlin stroked her cheek, lightly kissing her forehead. Everything will be fine, my love. You are here now, and Arthur is sending the midwife. Merlin could sense Morgana's desperation and tried to remain calm himself. Merlin, Nineveh, she did something to the bairns. I know, my love. I could sense her magic, a transference spell, but I sense... Yes, she took the magic from our daughter. Merlin touched her belly. No, I do not sense that. Alas, I think she gave it all to Morake. Nineveh warned of death, that one twin will kill the other to regain the power that then turn on us. Morgana struggled to stay conscious. Exhausted, she collapsed onto the pillow. Merlin knew what needed to be done. To protect their heirs and to protect their legacy, he must enchant his book while also placing a protection spell on Morake. Gawain, Morgana's son from her union with King Lot, appeared in the doorway, accompanied by the castle's midwife. Merlin called the young knight inside to be with his mother. Merlin decided he would entrust Gawain with the twins' protection. The young man was to watch over the twins after he and Morgana had long since left the earth. Casting a spell, Merlin secured protection of his children by ensuring Gawain's spirit would never die. His body would die, but only to be resurrected when called upon to ensure protection of his stepfather's legacy. What Merlin did not expect to do was also place a curse on the entirety of Clan Donald's firstborn males, all who would come for centuries. Gawain would be the first bearer of the curse since Morgana was a MacDonald by birth. Mordred, the male child waiting to be born and Merlin's firstborn, would also bear the curse. Merlin knew he had to warn Gawain of what was to come. His future now everlasting, Gawain would bear witness to the past, the present, and the future. So while the midwife attended to Morgana, Merlin summoned him to the corner. Where we left off. Katie tossed and turned the entire night, and Colm watched her for most of it, finally falling asleep late into the night. What is she dreaming of? What is it that keeps her so restless? Is she dreaming of her own past? He didn't know and was almost afraid to ask. She was a strong, passionate, caring woman, and he wanted nothing more than to make her his forever. So in the middle of the night, he decided he would ask her for her hand. There would be no time to plan a big ceremony or make it official. They would do it if she accepted in the old way. He would ask her to commit to him, and he to her, with a hand-fasting ceremony. Now he just needed to wait until the morning to ask her. Katie felt like she hadn't slept at all the entire night. Her nightmares were more real than they had ever been, and she felt like she had run a marathon. As she sat watching Colm sleep, she thought about home and how she really didn't miss anything about it except her family. She was sure her mother was a mess, and she felt bad that she was so happy when she knew her family was in 2019 and in pain. But there was nothing she could do about it, not until she finished her mission. She could only return when the book was ready to let her return. Then what? Would she have Colm beside her, or would she lose him forever? She had no idea, but if it came down to being with her family and being with Colm, she would choose Colm. She loved her family, and if she never saw them again, she knew they would understand and let her go. Lying back in the chair, Katie closed her eyes and thought about what it would be like to live out her life with Colm. As she lay there, she felt his presence near her and opened her eyes. He leaned over her and kissed her. "Good morning, Momaze. You slept very restless last night," he said. "Yes, another night of nightmares." "I'm sorry, Momaze. I wish that there was something I could do to help." "I wish that, too." "Well, I did want to ask you something important." "And what might that be?" "I would like to know if you would consider becoming my wife," Colm asked, his heart beating 1,000 miles a minute, anxiously awaiting her response. Katie smiled, then cocked her head to the ceiling. I don't know," she teased. "Do you really think you want to be with me?" If I have to think about it, I do." "Then I do too," she said, grinning. "A wedding is a big deal, though, and I am not all that sure we will have time enough to plan something." "Well, I was thinking since Aunt Anna said we must commit the old way, then we would do a hand-fasting ceremony. It would just be me and you and anyone we wish to witness it, if we choose to have anyone at all." Katie thought for a moment. "I think I would rather we do it with no one but us. Maybe out at Eleanor's schoolhouse, perhaps?" "That was my thinking also. How about we dress, make a lunch, and take a walk?" When they arrived at the schoolhouse, it was cold and dark, but it wasn't long before Colm had a fire going in the fireplace, and Katie had set the table. When the room was warm enough, Colm called Katie over to the fireplace and took her hand in his. He began to speak the words of the hand-fasting oath. "As this knot is tied, so are our lives now bound. Woven into this cord, imbued with its very fibers, are all the hopes of our friends and family, and of ourselves, for our new life together. With the fashioning of this knot do I tie all the desires, dreams, love, and happiness wished here in this place to our lives for as long as life shall last. In the joining of our hands in the fashioning of a knot, so are our lives now bound one to another. By this cord we are thus bound to our vows. May this knot remain tied for as long as our lives shall last. May this cord draw our hands together in love, never to be used in anger. May the vows we have spoken never grow bitter in our mouths. As any child discovers when they are learning to tie their own shoes, the first move is to cross the ends. As our hands are bound by this cord, so is our partnership held by the symbol of this knot. May it be granted that what is done before God be not undone by man. Two entwined in love, bound by commitment and fear, sadness and joy, hardship and victory, anger and reconciliation, all of which brings strength to this union. We will hold tight to one another through both good times and bad, and watch as our strength grows." When it was completed, they kissed, holding each other as Katie began to weep. Colm pulled her in closer. "My dear, do not weep. We are together, forever bound to each other, and I will love you until I die, and a million years after."